So we have another head sent in by Francisco. Francisco has sent in, I think, 4 heads. Yes, 4 heads previously. And Francisco says, hey, Follygon, this time I only took less than 1 week to make a head instead of 3. I used a reference, which I will be including with this email. Continuing on here. To be honest, I don't think my head looks very close to the reference, but that's not my focus. Honestly, it should be. It should be your focus. I think you really need to focus on reference a lot more, and I'll talk more about that here shortly. Because I only used this reference since it kind of looked plainer and cool. Also, since I'm not sure if it's male or female, it doesn't really matter in terms of what the form that you're trying to represent. Should just be paying attention to the reference and trying to replicate some of that. I made some changes to make them look more masculine. That said, there were some things I really liked about it, so I tried to keep those parts. The chin, the nose, and the structure of the face. To me, the most important thing is to make the head look human or good, since I'm not doing any likeness study. I will comment here again. The point of a reference is not to do a likeness study. It is to fill in the gaps of information where you lack, because obviously we don't have a perfect image in our head of what a human looks like. We have an idea, but we need reference to help fill in the gaps where our mental library cannot do that. Your mental library will improve with time, and you'll be able to represent this form and recognize some of these things that you need to do a lot easier and better, but we do need reference, and we do need to use it accordingly, which I will talk more, again, like I said here, in just a moment. Let's continue on with the rest of the message, though. Important thing is to make the head look human or good. I don't think it does look human, and yeah, we'll talk more. But if you try to follow the reference, it would be nice if you only paid attention to those parts. So the structure of the face, nose, and chin. The artist who made this, the image over here is a Yuka Soami. So everybody go check out Yuka Soami. Go check out their work. They got an art station, it looks like. Thanks a lot for the critiques and helpful videos. Have a great day. And if I'm lucky, I'll catch you live. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So what we're going to do, I'm actually not going to sculpt on this because I have a lot that I want to talk about for these and some of the past heads that we have looked at for Francisco. And I want to be very clear here that we want to focus on using reference, looking at our reference, and really trying to understand it, and focus on quantity over quality, okay? Because the main thing that we really want to do here is because a lot of these are starting to look repetitive and feel very similar, there's a lot here that's kind of feeling very similar. We want to get out of this rut and start sculpting a variety of different faces so that instead of trying to build this masculine face and trying to build on something that we've done in the past, we can focus on the most basic forms and shapes that we need to create from a sphere from scratch and then go from there. So the first thing that I want to talk about is, again, how similar and squared off a lot of these faces have been. There is absolutely improvement that we have seen over the past 5 heads here, from the first one that Francisco sent in to our most recent. But as we kind of scroll up through these, there are a lot of similarities between the last 4 here, where things feel very squared off and blocky, and some of the things that I have talked about I think are applicable here as well. But I don't want to sound like a broken record and continue to repeat myself. So Francisco mentioned, or I'll say first, again, focus on the reference. I said the same thing last week. I think you need to find not a drawing or an illustration. I think I said this. I believe I did. I'll go back and make sure. But focus on a real human character. So download some images of real people. You want to be referencing real people, because a 2D artist is going to make mistakes as well. And they're going to have compounded mistakes as it goes down the line. It's kind of like playing telephone if you've ever played that game. You have a line of people, you whisper in one person's ear, and you say pancakes, and by the time it gets to the end, they're like butts or something stupid. So what I want you to do is, instead of copying what somebody else copied, copy from the original source, human anatomy. Really focus on it. You mentioned the chin, nose, and face structure are used from the reference. If we look at the facial structure, I think there's just some obvious things that you've kind of repeated here as you constantly, we have this kind of hard line flowing down from the corner of the cheekbone all the way to the chin. And it's fine if you want to start blocking out the planes of the face that bit, a little bit that way, but we can see that the facial structure here where this highlight is, this line is just not flowing in that direction. We have the main volume kind of flowing down from the way back corner here, the brow. So we're flowing around here, back to this corner, and then around and creating that major form there. And then if we look at the highlight here a little bit more from the corner of the mouth, it kind of like comes up there, and that's where that plane breaks. So what I recommend, again, if you are going to be referencing a drawing or illustration or human face, whatever it may be, really kind of look at your reference, maybe do a draw over. I released a recent video talking about hits and breaks so that you can figure out the planes of a face a little bit more. There's a lot of variety in different faces. Make sure that you're looking at your silhouette. If we look at the other side here, we're at the 3/4 view. I think if we undo here and step back, you have the basic gesture here, but it's not matching the correct form and curve that we want to see. The face is just getting really stiff and kind of blocky where it shouldn't be, and then you're also still kind of getting very narrow with the forms that you're creating. Same with the lips. The lips are feeling very stuck on and not finished and, not flowing and working with the rest of the face here. In terms of the nose, you also mentioned, so that's kind of general face structure stuff that I want you to look at as you continue on. I also don't want you to continue on with this sculpt. I would highly encourage you to start from scratch. Looking at the nose, I think you need to kind of pull down this form a little bit more. The shape of the nose just isn't correct based off of what we're seeing here. I think there's quite a bit of room here for accuracy. It's too narrow towards the tip. You need quite a bit more volume in the wings of the nose, and just the overall kind of thickness and blending here going on, I think needs to be worked on as well. Let's see, and then the chin. So the chin is going to be very dependent on the lips, specifically the lower lip. I talked about this during the last critique of the orc character. All parts of the face interact and affect the overall form that's kind of happening around that, specifically the lower lip for the chin. So we have these muscles that come down around the chin. Your lips are not shaped correctly for this character, this type of head. For a human in general, they're way too narrow. They feel very puckered, very stuck on, getting a little duck lippy. Lower lip is just, these aren't wide enough. Really, I think pay attention to the areas around the things that you want to focus on, and I think that will also help you kind of continue creating some of these other shapes. Jawline is just, obviously we want to go through and clean this up. It's getting a little hard. And yeah, just kind of focus on where some of these light hits are happening and those plane changes. Roll that back so we can see the difference. Cool. So your focus, you also mentioned, is on making something that looks human and good. I would say stop. I would say stop focusing on making something look good or look like a human. This obviously, you see this and you're like 2 eyes, 2 ears, nose, and mouth. Human, right? But it doesn't feel like it's close to realistic anatomy or a stylized anatomical character. So either way, my advice to you is to focus on quantity over quality. And I believe I mentioned this last week as well. So really try to get your hours up in terms of what you're creating. I would say spend 2 to 3 times as much time as you did on this face in the lower resolution stages. Dynamesh this really low, zero mesh it really low, whatever you want to do. Don't sculpt ears, don't sculpt eyes, don't sculpt the nose and lips until you get to a place where you feel like your facial structure is a lot closer to what you're seeing in whatever you're trying to reference. Preferably a human character, a real image, or multiple images of a real character. Yes, you also sent me another email. You said you forgot to mention that you didn't have a lot of time for the neck and the nose, so if you could ignore the neck, I would appreciate it. That's not a problem. No problem at all. But I think, again, to emphasize here, maybe instead of trying to go week to week, trying to get something out as quick as you can, I think it would be more lucrative to you to attempt to work on something, like I said, 2 or 3 times longer, and really focus on those early stages, really looking at your reference, hop into Photoshop, hop into Paint, whatever you want to use, and do a quick draw over of your character's silhouette. This will help you once you get into 3D. You'll be looking for these exact form changes, and you'll be thinking more about them, and you'll just generally have more knowledge on what your character's proportions and face are going to look like. But that is, I think, all I'll say about this. I didn't want to try to repeat a lot of what I said in the past, so hopefully that's some new information for you, as well as some other people watching, but I think that'll help you out a lot. I really hope that you take what I said to heart, and good luck with you. I can't wait to see what you end up doing with your next one.